Good afternoon, members of the press, and good afternoon, fellow countrymen, women, and youths, wherever you're watching us from. Yesterday, we addressed you, and we promised that we'd come and address you again today after listening to the ConCourt judgment on the eligibility case. A very unprecedented development where a judgment was televised live across the whole world. It has never happened before, and we're seeing new developments happening in our country. This does not give us any wonder whatsoever. We did promise that we'll come and address the press today so that we can comment on the judgment. But before I go into talking about the judgment, I would like to just take cognizance of the remarks made by the court president. Yesterday, I spoke about how embarrassing it is for us Zambians to have a police service which is ranked 5th worst performing police force in the world. My words have been vindicated today when the court president said that the bench takes serious exception to the police stopping counsel from attending judgments in court. I hope that this is a clarion call, not only to Grafael Musamba, but more so to his supervisor, in the name of Hakainde Hichilema. You cannot continue to infringe upon the rights of citizens and expect everybody to be clapping for you. There always comes a time when people who have good reasoning capacity will call you out. And thank you, Judge President, for calling out the police, for stepping on the rights of citizens. Yesterday, when we addressed you, we spoke about the fact that this whole eligibility case is but opening of a Pandora box. A Pandora box whose lid was thrown down the Victoria Falls by no other than Hakainde Hichilema himself. I would like to add to what I said yesterday by informing you, members of the public, that all of us in the Patriotic Front leadership made a deliberate decision not to be in court. And the reason we didn't want to be in court was because we didn't want to legitimize what we have always considered a farce. This whole judgment, the whole matter itself, was a farce. A shambles. Yes. A shambles in many respects. One, the deliberate decision by one of the most interested parties to manipulate the bench. You don't go to justice unless you go with clean hands. I said yesterday that the only one individual who is a beneficiary of this court process is Hakainde Hichilema. And Hakainde Hichilema, without any shame, superintended over a process where 3 judges who were sitting on the bench when this case started were removed from the bench, were dismissed in the midst of the whole process. What other expectation did people have? For us, the moment that happened, we realized that this was but a shambles. And that was the reason why we stayed away. But this is also a farce because some of the key players in this matter, which has graced the court a resounding 4 times, chose to change their positions. And here I have in mind the Office of Attorney General. The Office of Attorney General is an office. It's not the individual, it is the office. And a position that is taken by an office, irrespective of the office holder, will be bound by the decision made by that office. It is very surprising that the Office of Attorney General, on 3 previous occasions, went to court and argued in favor of the eligibility of Edgar LUNGU. And now, this time around, the same Office of Attorney General has decided to spit on the arguments they presented in the 3 previous cases. Isn't that a farce? If it is not, what other name can you attribute to it? Can the holder of the Office of Attorney General give us good reasons why he decided to vacate the position that was held by his office in 3 previous matters of similar nature? We listened very attentively to the judgment delivered today, and we have a few comments to make. Number 1, we followed the arguments that were presented in court. And we recall that the court itself was presented with the question of per incuriam, which President today kept referring to. That question of whether or not in the 3 previous cases the court had arrived at that decision by error or per incuriam, that question was raised. What was the position of the court? The court said they were going to expunge that prayer, meaning they were not going to entertain any reference to the fact that the previous court in the 3 previous matters arrived at the decision through error or per incuriam. What that caused was that Edgar LUNGU, as a respondent, was precluded from explaining why this matter was not per incuriam. And the fact that he was denied the opportunity to argue the case means that this was not a free and fair trial at all. Because for a case to be free and fair, petitioners and respondents alike must be heard. Right. In this case, the judge or the court itself duped Edgar LUNGU by saying, don't worry about the question they have raised about the decision having been arrived at by error. They did mingalato. They told him, keep quiet about this, don't present your argument about this. And yet today, if there is any word that has been repeated today in this judgment, it is per incuriam. The same principle which they said they would not make reference to became the cornerstone of the judgment. Now Mingalato has also gone into the justice system. It has gone into the ConCourt. The second issue that we wish to bring to the attention of the citizens is the reference that was made in the judgment that in the previous 3 cases, there was no reference made to Section 2 and Section 7 of the Act. They kept repeating that in their judgment. No, the previous court, we did not consider ourselves, we should not concern ourselves with Section 2 and Section 7 of the Act. And yet, in the same judgment, reference is made to the fact that the dissenting judgment in the Legal Resources Foundation case was based on reference to Section 2 and 7. If indeed it was the dissenting judgment made reference to Section 2 and Section 7, doesn't it therefore follow that the court considered Section 2 and Section 7? As court justices, they sat The majority gave their side and the minority gave their dissenting view. And in their view, those who had the dissenting view said, no, please look at Section 2 and Section 7. And the whole bench said, irrespective of the provisions of Section 2 and Section 7, our sum total finding, after looking at all the articles and all the acts concerned, we find that Edgar Lungu qualifies to stand for elections in 2021. Right. What is the difference today? It was also very surprising to hear the judge saying, the Constitutional Court of Zambia does not have a provision allowing the court to review or revisit its previous decisions. He said that clearly. And then he decided to take a voyage around the whole Commonwealth, Zimbabwe, Ghana, South Africa, and even America, and fishing for constitutions which have that provision, without exercising himself to the fact that the Constitution of Zambia and the Act that created the Constitutional Court does not give that court power to revisit their decision. Where are they donating the power from? The fact that the Americans have that provision does not mean that Zambia has it. No. The fact that that provision is a proviso in the Supreme Court of Zambia Act does not mean that you can also borrow it and clothe it with the Constitutional Court. No. The framers of the Constitutional Court decided that we will not donate this power to the Constitutional Court. Finished. You can't amend the Constitution or the Act on your own just like that. No. No. And by the way, the judgment also went about saying, in this country, under special circumstances, the Supreme Court can vacate its earlier position. Under special circumstances, the Constitutional Court can review and revisit its previous decisions. And yet, today, the judgment fell short of telling us what the special circumstances are in this matter. What has changed from the three previous judgments? What has changed? Has the law changed? No. What is it? What special circumstance has occasioned the court to donate itself the power to say there is this special circumstance, and because of that we are going to revisit the decision that we arrived at on three different occasions? Surely if the court was challenged on three different occasions and they arrived at the same conclusion three times, what is the difference today? We were eager to hear what the difference is, but unfortunately we didn't hear what the difference is. One would also like to ask, the petitioner said, I want the court to declare that Edgar Lungu was not eligible to contest the 2021 elections.
Good question.
And because of that, he will also not be eligible to contest the 2026 elections. And the court decides to cut the loaf of bread in half. Huh? For 2021, he qualified.
Yeah.
Huh? He qualified for 2021. But, sorry, he does not qualify for 2026. How come? The court itself has pronounced today that Edgar Lungu rightly contested elections in 2021. If he was qualified in 2021, can the court also tell us why he does not qualify in 2026? What has changed? Now, these are elementary things which we thought that people would understand easily. But it seems like, you know, when Mingalato is up your sleeve, you even confuse yourself in the process. Now, what is clear to us is that all that has happened today is an adoption of the dissenting judgment in the Legal Resources Foundation case. That's what has happened. They just decided that the majority who sat in that court, their judgment must be shelved, must be thrown away. Instead, let us pick the minority and brush it and give it legitimacy. Where will this end? I hope that citizens can now see what we said yesterday, that they have opened a Pandora box. They have opened a very serious Pandora box. Because now I would like to know, we in the Patriotic Front and many citizens would like to know, can you give us the reasons why you have decided to rubbish the ruling of the majority in those cases, and instead you have picked the ruling of the minority? What kind of jurisprudence are you creating for Zambia? Members of the press, this contradiction raises worry for all of us. If our courts are going to be allowed to depart from their own decisions without good, proper justification, then the judiciary is gone. Because then how will I respect the judgment of a court if anyone can just wake up tomorrow and say, no, revisit this decision, not through an appeal, no, but simply going to court and telling the court, can you revisit this decision, depart from what you said yesterday, I want you to come with a new position, and the court obliges. I said yesterday, and I want to reiterate, Hagainde, lay your hands off the judiciary.
Yeah.
A country that has no respect for its judiciary is referred to as a banana republic. That's right. And we don't want Zambia to become a banana republic. We in the Patriotic Front would like to preserve the sanctity of our judiciary. And what has happened today is a test of that sanctity. I want to emphasize, we have not seen the end of this matter. We have not come to the end of this journey. And make no mistake, it may not even be President Edgar Lungu who goes back to court. It could be any ordinary citizen who will go back to court and ask these pertinent questions. On one hand, they say the Legal Resources Foundation matter had two dissenting views, one majority, one minority. Without telling us exactly what is wrong with the majority ruling, they decide to just discard it. Now, is this vindication of President Edgar Lungu when he approached the JCC about those judges who remained on the bench? And remember that the majority of the judges on the bench today are the ones who ruled against Edgar Lungu. in the previous cases. What else did you expect? Did you expect any different outcome? No. President Edgar LUNGU complained and said, these people who are remaining on this bench may not possibly consider this matter in any other light except in the light of their friend. It has come to pass. It has come to pass. For the avoidance of doubt, the Patriotic Front is where it was yesterday. As a matter of fact, the Patriotic Front is even more fortified today. We are more fortified by the evidence that has been adduced that indeed Edgar Chagwa Lungu is feared. To have a candidate who is feared to the extent that Edgar Chagwa Lungu is feared gives you a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of hope. Members of the Patriotic Front, members of Tonse Alliance, we are solidly behind the candidature of Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Come rain, come thunder, come sunshine, come darkness. 2026, Edgar LUNGU will be on the ballot paper. Alefwaya, talefwaya, Edgar LUNGU pa ballot paper. Yes. Noyanda notayandi hagainde Edgar LUNGU kwala ballot paper. Yes. Ali mugulindu we musa zwa. We kuwambira kuti golaya mudala zwa. Before you destroy this country. Zwa. And also, I'm not issuing any threat. I am not. But as an experienced citizen of Zambia who has been around for a long time, I want to say this. What goes round comes around. And what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. The same way that others are being mistreated, we must also prepare ourselves to face the same music. We may be happy now because of positions of power and positions of influence. But remember that all these positions are but temporary. There always comes a time when your successor comes. And what will your successor do? They will read your footprints. Where you stepped, they shall step too. Where you deviated from justice, you must know that your day of reckoning will come to come and account for the injustice. My dear brothers and sisters, countrymen and countrywomen, and youths, this is history in the making. And we happen to be part of that history. But we shall not be silent, inactive participants. No. We shall be active participants in the preservation of our democracy and ensuring that human rights, as are enshrined in our Constitution and in many international conventions, are protected and safeguarded at all costs. This is a duty that the Constitution bestows upon every citizen. It is a duty for which we must all rise. All of you colleagues in the Patriotic Front, I beseech you, be on the right side of the argument when the time comes. And to be on the right side of the argument is to make sure that this judgment is kept where it belongs. It's kept purely as an academic judgment, which has no effect whatsoever on our decision to field Edgar Chagwa Lungu as our presidential candidate. Members of the press, fellow countrymen and women, and my dear youths, I want to end by reporting to you that after the judgment, I had a long conversation with President Edgar Lungu. And I'm sure that by the end of the day, you will see videos of him doing what he loves to do most, campaigning. He's going about his campaigns in Kawambwa as though there was no judgment today. Because for him, he's also solidified by the fact that this judgment is nothing but a Pandora box, and that his eligibility is not going to be challenged by this judgment. So those of you colleagues in the Central Committee, now that the judgment is behind us, time has come for us to go into Kawambwa.
That's right.
Let us move into Kawambwa. SG, make sure that the list that was prepared by chairman elections is now implemented. All of us, let's move into Kawambwa. Let's go and make sure that the people in Kawambwa are told about the reason why they should not dare waste their vote on voting for anybody who is associated with Hakainde Hichilema. Anyone associated with the UPND. Because all they have taught us is that it is possible to cheat and to maintain power through deceit. That's the only message we have learned from them. But you can continue to lie. Even when you have the authority, you have the power, you still continue to govern people by lies. How can the president surely go and claim a project concluded by his predecessor and say, this project is our project? And you think that people are ignorant? People can't see? You tell people, no, we sold the maize because there was no money, and yet there was money in the budget to pay the farmers? No. We have a duty to protect Zambia's integrity. And we can only do that by making sure that people like Grafe Musamba don't continue. And for him not to continue, we must make sure that his appointing authority is the one who is stopped. The journey for stopping Hakainde Hichilema started the very day he was sworn in. Manje we have tafika kumapeto. So let's just soldier on. Members of the Patriotic Front, there is no kulala anymore. It's boots on the ground. Because if we don't do that, by the time Hakainde is done with this country, I doubt there will be a country to write home about.
Correct.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
I will take questions. Madam Nakiwe.
All right. That was our Vice President giving a very candid presentation. If we have questions from the members of the press, we'll take questions. Do we have questions?
Good afternoon, Vice President Given.
Good afternoon.
I've been listening attentively to your speech. I'm wondering whether you're not risking yourselves a patriotic crime, finding yourselves in a situation you found yourself in Kwacha and Kamushi by insisting that Edgar LUNGU is candidate. Remember what happened when you insisted that Bowman Zambu and Joseph Malanji would be candidates? You ended up not having a candidate at all. And so I'm wondering why you don't want to run for history.
Good. Thank you for that question. Actually, that question gives me an opportunity to also go back into this judgment. In relation to Kwacha, in relation to Kabushi, in relation to Kawambwa. As we speak now, that same court that made this judgment today, that same judiciary, state elections in Kawambwa, state elections in Kabushi, state elections in Kwacha. Without going back to the court to go and remove that injunction, what happened? Hakainde Hichilema, in his dictatorial tendencies, went ahead and called for elections. As we speak now, the elections in Kawambwa are illegal. Illegal because there's a court order staying those elections. And yet the ECZ has gone about calling for those elections. Now, the question that begs an answer is, where is the judiciary? Where are you, judges? Where are you? Your orders are being disrespected with impunity. Your orders over Kwacha and Kabushi were disregarded. 2 illegal people were taken to parliament through an illegal process. Are we not learning from history? We certainly are learning from history. We are learning from history. And we have said, this judgment will not deter us from presenting Edgar LUNGU as our candidate for 2026.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
I remember the SG said that over Kabushi and Kwacha, that there will not be elections in Kabushi and Kwacha without Roman Samband and Joseph Lungu. Elections went ahead and we had elections in Kabushi and Kwacha, and you lost out as a patriotic crowd. You don't think now it's time for you to put your house in order, find a different candidate ahead of the elections in 2026?
The danger with what you're suggesting is what I spoke about yesterday. That we should donate our right to Hakainde. It is our right to choose candidates for ourselves. We are not going to allow Hakainde to choose candidates for us. We stand firm on the fact that we made decisions not to have candidates in Kwacha and Kabushi because we didn't want Hakainde to be the one who tells us who our candidates shall be. And because of that experience that we saw in Kwacha and Kabushi, I want to assure the members of the Patriotic Front, I want to assure citizens, we are picking up lessons. We are learning from that. So Zambians feel comfortable that your Patriotic Front has learned. We will not make the same mistake. We are learning. But we are telling you that if Hakainde thinks he will do Mingalato like he did in Kwacha and Kabushi, he will not.
There's a question. Oh yeah, Mr. Edgar, then you have to proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Good afternoon.
Justin Mulanda from Diamond TV. My question is on the final judgment from the Constitutional Court. Don't you think that this is going to see members from the Tonse Alliance lose confidence in the former Republican president after this declaration by the court?
Say that again, Justin. Sorry, I missed it.
My question is, with this final judgment that has come, don't you think that this is going to see members of the Tonse Alliance and even from the PF lose confidence in the party itself?
Thank you, Justin. Thank you very much, Justin. I already said, Justin, that we feel fortified. We feel very fortified. Had the outcome been different, we would have started looking around to say, what do they have up the sleeve? Yes. They have said they want him on the ballot paper. Maybe they have seen something. The fact that they have said no shows us that they are so frightful. And we want a candidate who is feared. So instead of dampening our spirits, this judgment has consolidated our position. And I mentioned to you that I had a lengthy conversation with President Lungu before addressing the press. And President Lungu is in Kawambwa together with the leaders of Tonse. So in that conversation, they were also part of our dialogue. We are confident. And you see, the beauty, Justin, is that even yesterday, on behalf of the party, on behalf of Tonse, I did indicate that whatever the judgment today, this matter will not rest. It is a Pandora box. So we knew already that this is a farce. It doesn't change our position. It just consolidates us. Any other?
You said today's judgment has given you confidence that you should go with former President Edgar LUNGU in 2026. But the candidate you are believing in has been knocked out by the court. Unless the party decides to go back to court to challenge this judgment. So for clarity, are you going back to court? Because if you insist that you are going with ECL in 2026, how are you going to do it that today's judgment has knocked him out?
Madam, if you listened to me very carefully, I said it may not necessarily be Edgar LUNGU who goes to court. It could be somebody else. Huh? It could be one of these here. It could even be a person who's not a member of Tonse Alliance who could go to court. All right? However, I also want to emphasize that with these developments in the judiciary, we also are leaving other options open. No. Let me say what I said yesterday. Yesterday I said we had 3 candidates. Today we have 4. Number 1, Edgar Chagwa LUNGU. Number 4, Edgar Chagwa LUNGU. Number 2, Edgar Chagwa LUNGU. Number 3, Edgar Chagwa LUNGU. We have various options to use to make sure Edgar Chagwa LUNGU is on the ballot paper. Various. Now, Hagainde, my friend, and when I say my friend, I mean it. I mean it. Childhood friend of mine, Hagainde. He taught me some Tonga. Meaning, a guinea fowl does not lay its eggs in the public. And today I'm not going to lay my eggs in the public. I'll not lay the eggs of Tonse in the public. I've just told you that there are various options. Wait, watch the space. Kuzankala mingalato tuenda. Waona munga wazi wa mingalato. Naise tizi wa mingalato. Naise tizi wa mingalato kubachila. Tizapanga mingalato nice. So don't worry, madam. The court is one option, but there are many others. There are many others. And remember what I said? In a democracy such as ours, it must be the will of the people, not the will of an individual. Lula da Silva in Brazil, what happened? From prison to presidency. Donald Trump, what happened? From being persecuted to presidency. To an extent where his predecessor, my friend Donald Trump, Biden, even decides to abuse his authority as president to pardon his son of criminal charges. So it has happened in many places. It shall happen in Zambia too. Have that confidence.